Teachers at PHM have until December 15th to catalog every book in their classroom. Some elementary school teachers have hundreds of books in their classrooms, with libraries numbering into the thousands of books. District leaders say all this extra work is in response to House Bill 1447, which was passed in the spring and goes into effect next year.
The pigeon books are pretty popular in our classroom.
No matter what your interest, you'll be able to find books about
Fly Guy, he's right over here. He's very popular.
well, just about anything inside Maggie Nate's first grade classroom.
The Dot.
Ooh, what's that one about?
Okay, so it's about this little girl who brings something to her teacher. It's basically, here, I'll open it up.
The Horizon Elementary School teacher believes she has hundreds of books, and these are just the books that fit. There are many, many more stored at her house.
And it is something you take pride in as a teacher. First grade is a huge year for developing reading skills.
Collecting all these books has been a very long and thoughtful process. For Nate, having a diverse classroom library was important to her.
I built my library around that concept of, hey, do I have a mixture of resources for my kiddos so that they can experience things that they love and enjoy, but also learn about others?
But now you have all these books.
Yes.
And you have to catalog them.
Correct. Yes, it's true.
Nate, like all teachers in PHM School Corporation, is now required to catalog every single book available in her classroom.
I mean, simple, we're thinking title and author, made accessible to our parents, so a parent would be able to view what's in the classroom library.
House Bill 1447, which is now law, requires school districts to publish a catalog of material available in a school library. It also requires schools to have a process by which someone can request material be removed from the library. PHM says it's had a similar policy since 2005. The district is now going a step further beyond the new law and having teachers create a master list of books in their classroom libraries.
Essentially, we want transparency with our parents, and so it would be a list of these are the books that are accessible to your child in the classroom.
If a parent sees a book on that list and they don't like it, what then?
Well, we value our relationship with our parents. So I would say, and this isn't just with books, but with anything, if a parent has a concern, we certainly would hope they'd reach out to the teacher or reach out to the principal, because we want to partner with that parent.
Now, some have serious concerns this new law could lead to censorship and book banning. You voted against this, I saw. Why?
I voted against the language that was added into 1447.
Representative Maureen Bowers says parts of the new law are vague and put teachers, librarians, and school leaders at risk of criminal prosecution.
This language is incredibly challenging for a number of reasons. First of all, it is fear-driven.
She's referring to the part of the law that says people can request material be removed from a school library if it's obscene or harmful to minors. New language in the law also removes protections for teachers and schools from being criminally prosecuted.
Now the problem could arise, and something we will see now that it's law, is that any individual who lives in the community or has a parent of a child in that school could bring a challenge simply because they oppose the content of that literature. A lot of those who are in favor of it oppose the idea of pornography in our classrooms. And of course, we all object to that. But the problem is the language of the bill does not say pornography. It says harmful material, which is open to interpretation, which in my view doesn't make for good law.
We reached out multiple times to local Representative Jake Teshka and never heard back. He's on the House Education Committee and voted in favor of this bill in the spring.
I checked out some books and have been looking around at some of these things, and quite frankly, was surprised by some of the passages that were found in some of these books that are housed in schools.
Teshka and other supporters of the bill say parents have been unhappy with the current process to get materials they believe aren't appropriate for kids out of schools. Opponents say they shouldn't have the right to ban those materials from all kids and are concerned about who makes the decision on what's appropriate and what's not.
There is a lot to catalog and record, but we will make it happen.
Nate's classroom is a long way from the State House, but she hopes her soon-to-be long list of classroom books helps bring her closer to her students and their families. Operation Education is digging deeper into this new law and its real-world impact, what its creators intended, and the possible penalties for not following the law. Will teachers or librarians face jail time? That's Wednesday. In the studio, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News. If a child misses 18 or more days of school in a school year, they're considered chronically absent. Statewide in Indiana, new data shows during the last school year, 1/5 of the state's students were chronically absent. In some of our area schools, the numbers are much worse.
Greetings, Dr. Jenner, members of the board.
This is the State Board of Education at its October meeting talking about school attendance.
This is a pretty jarring slide for our state.
According to the Indiana Department of Education, during this past school year, nearly 20% of students were considered chronically absent. While there was a decline from the previous school year, the number of students who were chronically absent last year is nearly double what it was pre-COVID. And broken down by demographic and socioeconomic status, some groups are far more likely to experience chronic absenteeism. The statewide data also shows that only 60% of students have an attendance rate of 94% or higher. That means while some students aren't considered chronically absent, they're still missing enough classroom time to be considered habitually absent.
Because the state statute, the definition of habitual truancy is 10 days unexcused.
That's what that means. Yes,
Yeah.
400,000 plus. Yes, sir. That's
that gets your attention.
And alarming. Student data shows academic scores are higher for kids who regularly go to school. It shows even after 1 or 2 absences a month, students fall behind.
When you're not there and present every day, you're not going to get the same quality of education.
There, in my opinion, has to be a way to hold parents of minors accountable.
State officials say the causes of chronic absenteeism are complex.
This is a problem that's not going to have a single solution.
Locally, many schools in our area are struggling to get kids in the classroom.
It's a chronic problem. It's bad.
Dave Troyer, the director of student services for School City of Mishawaka, says the number of chronically absent students has jumped up since the pandemic, and they don't know why.
There's not one canned answer to that. We have to try to do everything we possibly can, and I think that's what schools are doing.
Look at the numbers from our local school districts. If you take Mishawaka, 34% of students last school year were chronically absent. That means they were missing from school more than 18 days, or 10% of the school year. 34% compared to 43% the previous year. That means the chronic absentee rate went down in 2023. And in South Bend, more than 40% of students were chronically absent last school year. Now, that's still a pretty high number, but it is down significantly from the previous school year. And in Elkhart, nearly 34% of students were chronically absent last school year, again, down from the previous school year. Throughout the state, high schools are seeing the largest percentages of chronically absent students. Around 47% of Mishawaka high school students were chronically absent last school year. That's down from 56% the year before.
There are some internal things that take place within an academic setting that impact absenteeism, but there's also external things.
Social workers say there could be a variety of reasons why some students might not show up to school regularly. Issues with transportation, mental health, homelessness, family dynamic, all factor in.
When we're making those calls, we say, how can we help? How can we help get your student here?
Mishawaka has implemented social emotional learning and behavioral and academic supports. But if they can't get students in school, it's difficult to help.
And many educators feel like that. So what we are doing about that is we're doing everything we can to try to help.
But this is not just a Mishawaka problem.
It's not even our state, it's the nation.
And it will take all of us to fix it. The Michigan Department of Education reports the chronic absenteeism rate was 30% this past school year. It's also down from the previous year. In the studio, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News. School funding in Indiana is confusing. In South Bend, since the inception of the Empowerment Zone in 2019, there's been confusion about how it's funded. A warm and sunny day at the park in South Bend. No one here is thinking about school funding.
Are you a taxpayer?
Absolutely.
Except us.
Would you, as the average person, be able to tell me how schools are funded?
No, I don't know anything about that around here.
That I don't. I don't know how it is that they are funded.
Next week, the South Bend School Board will likely make a decision that could impact taxpayers young and old. They're deciding what's next for the schools on South Bend's west side.
There's just not a lot of information out there.
The original 5-year transformation agreement for Navarre Middle School and its feeder elementary schools is almost over. But before any major decisions are made,
This was actually a story that you pitched.
Empowerment Zone leaders want to make sure everyone is on the same financial page.
It's dawned on me that there's a lot of misunderstanding, misnomers, miscommunication.
Empowerment Zone Chief Davion Lewis sat down with us to talk about where the zone's money is coming from, who manages it, and where it goes.
We don't consider ourselves to be completely separate and apart from SBCSC.
Like all school funding, where the money comes from is complex. Some funds come from federal grants, things like Title grants, COVID funds, money for kids with disabilities, and school improvement grants. Some funds come from the state. This is per pupil funding that follows the student. This is special ed and career and technical education. And some funds come from local property tax dollars. This is what you pay if you own a house, a business, or property. All schools in the state are funded similarly. So all this money comes in from the Indiana Department of Education and goes to the South Bend Community School Corporation. The South Bend Community School Corporation manages about 97% of the Empowerment Zone's funds. So if there was $171 million in here representing South Bend Community School Corporation's 2023 approved general fund budget, about $35 million of this would belong to the Empowerment Zone.
So the money is assigned to service the student, not the district. And so what the district ultimately does is acts as a pass-through for the zone.
That $35 million that is held by the district is about 97% of the Empowerment Zone's yearly budget. Other than setting its own budget, the zone doesn't have access to that money. The South Bend Community School District executes all transactions, including paying staff, vendors, and expenses.
The district, SBCSC, is the LEA, which is local education agency. And so ultimately, as the LEA, there are a number of responsibilities that they have, include being the recipient of our state and federal dollars, and they simply just channel those dollars to our discretion.
There is another much smaller cup of money that the Empowerment Zone has access to. About 3% of the zone's funding, or $1.1 million, is held by a 501c3.
All the information about the finances of the zone and how it works, it's out there.
Lewis says zone leaders have worked hard to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. The zone pays the district about $6 million a year for its shared services, things like utilities, food services, and insurance. And there have been efforts to increase efficiency and erase duplicated services. This year, the zone cut about $2.3 million in spending. Next year, about $3 million.
In your opinion, is the zone worth the money for this area?
I mean, I would certainly think so.
A 3-year financial audit was just done this year on the zone. It was clean. In the studio, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News. Critical race theory has been around for decades. It's a graduate school level of study that looks at reasons why systemic racism exists. Concerns about whether CRT is being taught in kindergarten through 12th grade classrooms is growing. In our area, PHM School Corporation seems to be ground zero for these concerns.
The United States of America.
At PHM school board meetings,
Yes, I'd like to propose a change in the agenda.
CRT is on repeat.
I move that we add to tonight's agenda.
Longtime school board member and former teacher Jim Garrett has been trying since 2021 to get his CRT resolution on the agenda. He believes CRT should be banned from PHM schools.
I'd just like to have each board member chime in and say, what do you think about this?
Garrett had his anti-CRT resolution written up based on this 2021 memo issued by the Indiana Department of Education. The state secretary of education sent the memo to school administrators throughout the state, saying state academic standards do not include critical race theory and that CRT is not designed for K through 12th grade students. The memo said the state would not support anything that alienates, discriminates, or negatively divides students based on race or background. Garrett's resolution says the same thing.
If it was good enough for them, or they felt that we needed to have something put out.
The resolution simply is taking what the IDOE put in a memo.
Brand new school board member Matt Chaffee also wants Garrett's resolution on the agenda.
You want it, sounds like, on the agenda because you want them to go on the record voting for it.
Yes, in part, but also I think it's important to take a stand on certain things.
The problem for Garrett and Chaffee is that district and school board leadership won't put it on the agenda.
The motion that is in front of the board now is a motion to amend the agenda.
Plus, it likely wouldn't pass.
Motion is defeated by a vote of 5-2.
The reason that this hasn't been placed on the agenda is because there's absolutely no need for it whatsoever. And it's not sound policy.
PHM board president Christopher Riley is a lawyer. He's called the resolution vague and ambiguous.
So they say that that wording is specific, alienates, discriminates, or negatively divides students based on race or background. But you're saying, no, that's not specific enough.
That's not specific. When you take the notion of critical race theory and define it so ambiguously and so broadly, that it discourages people from even talking about culture or diversity, we have a problem.
And that is part of the problem. What CRT is and what it's being defined as now are different. The PHM School Corporation has said it does not teach CRT. School leaders have also said teachers are not hiding CRT in their lessons like some have claimed. In fact, all parents can go online to see their child's curriculum.
Their argument is, though, no one in their right mind would say, yes, I'm teaching CRT and here's what that looks like. Their argument is that they might be teaching these tenets.
Well, it depends upon what their definition of the tenets of CRT is. And we don't know what their definition of the tenets of CRT is.
At past school board meetings, some parents concerned about CRT have voiced their thoughts on what those tenets might include. They've said teachers are bringing topics like prejudice, discrimination, and oppression into the classroom. This was a meeting in 2021.
Stop creating racism. Dr. Martin Luther King got rid of it years ago. Keep it out of our schools.
And this was just last month.
These tenets teach that America is racist, American government is racist, and it's a revolution whose goal is equity.
So could, like, a history teacher talk about racism in the classroom?
I suppose. I mean, it depends on how you talk about it.
So then kids shouldn't learn about discrimination or privilege or oppression?
Again, in regards to critical race theory and what that has to do with, I think we need to focus on not alienating, discriminating, or negatively dividing students based off race or background.
And that's why teachers are worried about this resolution and other anti-CRT resolutions, policies, and legislation around the country. At last month's meeting, several teachers spoke to oppose Garrett's proposed resolution, saying the policy would hurt teachers.
Many people have differing opinions about what CRT is and is not. If we do not agree, then where do we draw the line?
Still, Garrett says he feels his resolution will protect teachers, and he won't stop bringing it to the board's attention.
I'm not going to give up. I mean, if I gave up, I wouldn't be a very good leader, would I?
You can see the resolution for yourself on our website at WSBT.com. In the studio, Kristen Bean, WSBT 22 News.